So, what's been happening in the world of TaskWarrior this last 2 weeks?
I'm just looking at the issues here to remind myself. A lot of bug fixing, both by me and other people.
Nice.
Felix has been doing a bunch of good work on that topic.
Mm.
Uh, we fixed that the task news command seems to be its existing design was causing some trouble. It was only ever used in Task Warrior 2.6.0. I think we had never noticed that it didn't have a way to differentiate different versions. Um, and if you didn't run it with a secret command, undocumented command, it would show you the news and every indication, and a bunch of other miscellaneous problems. So we've been trying to patch that up and make that so that it's a useful thing, but not annoying to people.
Hmm.
Um, let's see. And Sebastian, I believe, get the name right. Um, yes, Sebastian Carlos has been making a bunch of docs and man page changes. So between the two repositories, I've seen some pretty bad inconsistencies. They're minor PRs, but I'm sure they were very confusing errors and omissions for people who are trying to read the documentation. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, we should
That's
keep them.
yeah,
it's
that is
really nice.
yeah. That's most of what's been going on. I think we are close to an '06 release on Task Champion. Um, Oh, in fact, I was waiting for a PR and then forgot that I was waiting for that PR when I merged it. So we could make an '06 release today. And it is raining out, so I'll probably be inside today. um, I'm going to leave out there was a plan to kind of refactor the Task Champion interface. And I was talking to Felix a little bit about this in chat and Discord. I think part of the reason that the performance is so bad right now is the way that that interface is structured means that we do a lot of sort of individual transactions in the database, and those are slow. Closing the transaction takes a little while. So I think if we change the interface and let things let operations kind of batch up a little bit into fewer transactions, that will make things a little bit faster. So want to put a little bit more thought into that before we make that refactor. So I think we're going to push that out of the '06 release for Task Champion. We'll make that release today. That enables a relatively minor change in TaskWarrior that needed that new version, which will go into 031 or yeah, sorry, 310 for TaskWarrior. And we should probably be able to make that TaskWarrior release in the next 2 weeks. That's not a promise. It's just a hope. But looking at what's landed, I think there's enough at this point to do that. And looking at what still remains to be done, I don't think there's anything that's critical to. It's going to take a long time. Or it's critical to get that. So that's what's going on. Well, what have I missed? I guess there's been some other documentation changes I didn't mention because I'm not looking at that repo. Maybe Tomas can fill in.
Well, not so much. I think the most action on that side was in the TaskWarrior webpage repo. So I also saw a lot of pull requests and also merged those which were where I thought, okay, makes sense. Where you do not need much deeper technical knowledge about the TaskWarrior. Otherwise, from the hello,
Hector.
Hi, Hector.
from the webpage side. So we were talking last time about this switch that we want to present or visualize a bit more to which tools are suitable for which version. So this is as a first draft, so to say, already live. So they have now small icons with tooltips where you can see, this is for TaskWarrior 2, this is for TaskWarrior 3, or both, or Task Server. I've called or wrote a lot of issues to the repositories which have tagged or had TaskWarrior as a topic to inform them about this change. So I think my issue count went already skyrocketed the last weeks. here. And I also got a lot of feedback here with a lot of thanks for the work on TaskWarrior, which I can now give to you, Dustin, as one of the main driver behind TaskWarrior now. So yeah. Oh, is it already live with the filter? Or is this?
It's live with the filter both on Task and TimeWarrior websites.
Okay. Oh, nice. Yeah. Then, yeah. Allow me to present the recent change now. We not only present what are suitable, you can also filter now for them, and we have also now this nice filter for language and owners if you want to. But yeah, I think the main big change is that you can now filter for the different tools, for TaskWarrior 2, 3, Task Server, and such. What's missing here is the crawler script still works the old way. I will switch that to only scanning for the repos with the topic settings. I wanted to contact all the repositories we have in our list, which did not have any topics at all. But I also discovered there were a lot of topic or repositories in there which more or less look like student project where somebody set up a simple server, called a task server, and well, it somehow, from my point of view, had no relation to the real TaskWarrior or task server at all. So I thought before I write some tooling to create 1,000 issues on those repos, I first try to get some tooling to filter them a bit. So we only have those which are really related to project, not just having some name resemblance or something. Yeah, but in a way, yeah, that's the current status here. But it's nice to see it working on the TaskWarrior page. So I think we can. I know it's not about for TimeWarrior. It only has one category, so it doesn't make sense here. One question maybe. I think currently, or maybe not. It's about those hooks for to connect TaskWarrior and TimeWarrior. Maybe some outside input. Is something like that a TaskWarrior tool, or is it a TimeWarrior tool? Would you expect this on the TaskWarrior tools page, or just on the TimeWarrior tools page, or both?
I looked for it on the TaskWarrior tool page. It's actually the only plugin I use. No, sorry, it's one of two plugins I use for
Okay.
TaskWarrior.
I mean, my reaction is kind of why not both? Doesn't hurt.
Okay. I was somewhat a little bit leaning towards, okay, let's keep it on maybe just on TimeWarrior, but on the other hand, yeah, why not both, as it's a connection. Yeah, then I will keep it that way. I think currently I only discovered one that actually has both tags on that, but I think it's well, they can use this tag as well. Okay.
Thanks for doing that. I know contacting all those people, all those resources. A lot of clicking and typing, and a lot of sort of responding to individuals. So I appreciate that.
Mostly copy pasting. Unfortunately, you couldn't use the GitHub API. I thought, oh, I wrote a small script to create all the issue tags depending on what tags they were present, and thought, okay, now I can, yeah, start my script and put it out. But unfortunately, you can only use the GitHub API to create issues on your repositories with the tokens, not on everyone's. Somehow it makes sense, so you do not spam too much. On the other hand, well, it means, yeah, you have to do copy paste for all the others. It was not that much, it was only 100, but if you streamline this a bit, you get along with that. But I still have the 1,000 without. So with that, I think craft something with Playwright and my automate my browser.
Mm.
But yeah,
always another project.
It's another project, yeah. But I will try to get this done soon. So, yeah. But as said, I want to filter the repositories first a bit. And maybe the other news here I can also present now. So from my perspective, it's on my left here, Matt, from the screens. I don't know where it is on your screen. Here, how's it said? Thankfully, he agreed to assist me or us with the web pages. So I will try to empower him as the new or one of the administrators of the web pages to help us with all the pull requests and issues there. Mm-hmm. And also, he did a good job already with the filtering and stuff. Mm-hmm. So yeah. After putting his toe into the pond, he's now ready to swim, and hopefully he will swim along for quite a time now. But yeah. So officially also here, a big thank you to you, Matt, for joining in here and taking the responsibility.
Yeah, great. Thanks a lot. And over either today and or over the next 2 weeks or so, and coming into the next meeting, I'd like to talk more about what exactly the responsibilities entail. But I mean, as you can see, jumping in right now and finding like these issues to merge, and also merging in my own change. You asked earlier, Connor, so it's live now, and the answer is yes, because I'm like, all right, well, I've got maintain responsibilities on the website now, so I can push these changes. So yeah, you'll see more of that.
Yeah. I've been warned.
If you want to say anything about how you use TaskWarrior or questions or anything like that.
Me, sorry, did you say Hector?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, hey, sorry, yeah. It's mostly, selfishly keen to make it work for me again. So, to be able to use like TaskWarrior 3, and that was like, so I was working with origin URL changes, which I think, so that was the main thing I was interested in. TaskWarrior, so to help work with it.
And I think we were talking before you joined, the 060 Task Champion release is going to be a prerequisite to that. And there was one more PR at one point that I had to merge, and I merged that and forgot that unlocked the release. So I should be able to make a release today if I have some time at the laptop. And then we can, I think you have most of the PR for TaskWarrior finished, so we'll just clean that up and should be able to merge that for TaskWarrior 3.10. So should be able to finish that project soon, I hope. So, and thank you for doing that. It's been nice to see someone looking at that, and nice to see this addition to it. I think that'll help a lot of people. I did want to say, looking at the TaskWarrior milestones for 031, the thing we haven't done is expiring and purge. And I wonder what you all think about doing a 3.10 release without adding that functionality, and then adding it in a later release. Or should we wait a little bit longer, maybe another 2 weeks, to try and get that finished?
What are the downsides of leaving it for 2 weeks so that we're working on a package that's achievable?
I don't think there are any real downsides. In fact, I'd say that's kind of an upside. Releases have been averaging several years if you look over the history of TaskWarrior. So we already did a bug fix release 3.01. So doing 3.1, it's only been 2 months since 3.0, 3 months. That seems awfully quick. So maybe we should not try to set the expectation that we're doing rapid releases and sort of prefer to wait here, since there's no breaking fixes that we have to put in. There's no objection then. I'll retract my earlier suggestion that we might do a release in the next 2 weeks and we'll wait for that, which will be at least 2 weeks. So we'll talk about it at the next meeting. And Hector, that does mean a little longer to wait for the origin support, but you could certainly do a local build if you want. And also, I don't think we're not waiting indefinitely, so maybe just 4 weeks now.
Sure. Yeah. So what was? Could you explain a little bit more about the stuff that was blocking that?
Yeah, it's the stuff that's blocking this release, the purging and firing. Yeah. Task Champion supports taking tasks that are in status deleted and actually removing them from the task database, I think 6 months or a year after they haven't been modified. And the idea there is that deletions, in terms of sync, deletion is sort of weird, because if you do a deletion here and a modification there and then sync them, you end up with a task that only has like a due date and not a description, which should be legal, but is probably not what you expected. So the idea was to only actually remove tasks from the database when they're really not going to be modified on another replica. We never hooked that up to TaskWarrior, so it never happens in TaskWarrior. And there were a couple bugs saying, "Oh my God, you hooked up automatic deletion to TaskWarrior, and I don't want that." And it turns out we forgot. So that's one side of it. But the other side is that a lot of people actually do want to completely remove a task from their task database. And the task purge command used to do that, and it no longer works. Again, kind of missed that and forgot to hook that up to task changing. So two sides of the same coin of making a task kind of permanently go away. And I feel like we should implement both of those. They're not difficult. We forgot to call a method somewhere. So yeah, like I said, they're not difficult. I should be able to get to them. I've just been working on other issues, but I have in mind how to fix both of those. The one downside that I guess we should all be aware of is, deletion. I don't think it was ever the case, but even more so now, deletion doesn't mean that data is gone. And if a state-sponsored surveillance company or your employer comes by and wants to know, did you make a task to do something illegal or against your company's rules, the data is still there. I think that was always the case with TaskWarrior in the old data storage format. The way we do data storage now, there's a history of all the changes that you've made, and the deletion is just adding a new element to that history. So all the data for any task, even if it's deleted, is still present in the database. So we should be careful not to promise cryptographically secure deletion, because we're not doing that. Much like Git. I think the example there for explaining that is that it's a lot like Git, where if you commit a password to something and push it to GitHub, sure, you can force push and get rid of that commit, but the data still went to GitHub and can still be downloaded from GitHub if you saw that happen. Did that answer the question for you?
Kind of sounds to me like that's a wrap up on our development side of things. And because Hector is joining us for the first time, Hector, could you tell us a little bit about how you use TaskWarrior? Could you mentioned earlier that you're a big fan. Tell us what got you into it and how you use it.
Sure. Yeah. I like I've tried a variety of like task tracking or to-do list type things, as I'm sure everyone has over there. Things that I liked about TaskWarrior in particular were that it was like it works from online and that it synced between many machines. Like, those were the most attractive things, and then also that it was like pretty fast and flexible. Yeah, and happily using it for some time. Exactly when. Yeah, and then recently I was trying to into TaskWarrior 3, And also the other thing is change jobs, and so like new job like now it would be less horrendous to like have syncing.
Hmm. That sounds good. What sync solution are you using?
So previously I used the now we're gonna task set, which was this one, which was a quite esoteric to get set up, but I did get there in the end. So I like the task champion sync server is much easier. So that seems like a huge improvement.
Mm. Yeah.
That's
I did get that working, with some hacks to like fix the stuff with the URL. Nice and
yeah, and I
You
think that's going to be a nice.
you contrasted the two different jobs, one of which being easier to set up the syncing for. Could you go into a little bit more detail on that?
sorry, like the companies.
Yeah, I think that you mentioned that you started a job at a different company recently, and that
Yeah.
it was in some sense less of a headache to set up the syncing between personal and company tasks there. Could you go into more detail on what you meant by that?
Sure. Yeah, like I think there was a combination of two things, right? Both the task server was like this kind of a tested C++ service, and the was like a big company, and so they had like a secure network and like quite worried about opening up some random port, right? So it's like I run the task server over here or the server on my network, and like any kind of way of getting a connection between like a work laptop and that seemed like very suspect. So I just never did it there, right? And that new job is like a small startup, and so it's much less worrying, and also like I can just have have a VPN, but I don't have to have it. So now it's easier, and then also being able to put task champion sync server is just like a it could be behind Nginx or something, right? So it's like this server to worry about from that perspective.
That's a good point. I think there's a lot of things to be terrified about in the way Task Server was built, but one of them is that it embeds, I think, a fairly old version of OpenSSL and does a lot of the use of OpenSSL itself, and hasn't been maintained in years. So surely there's at least a dozen buffer overflows in that. If someone notices that you have that running on an open port, there's a decent chance they can get remote code execution on your machine. So yeah, I think that's a valid concern. If someone was watching that, certainly it could be done safely, but I'm not confident that we would have caught any sort of vulnerabilities in OpenSSL or how it was used that might have come up over that time. And putting Nginx in front of anything is a smart way, or is a smart way to do that TLS stuff in very trusted, very highly used software, and then put the less used, possibly more buggy software behind it and not have this pretty good. It's a great idea, and I'm glad you're adding that support.
Thank you very much, Hector. That was terrific.
I do have an admission to make, which is that I'm still using 2.6 for my personal stuff. And that's mostly because I haven't figured out how to build Frio for termups on my phone, which is probably possible. So I'm going to try and work on that. But it means that I'm still using Task Server for my personal things, and it has crashed. It crashes every week, and it duplicates tasks. So I'll put one task in on my laptop, and then two of them appear here sometimes. I just feel like the list of bugs for that Task Server is pretty endless, and I really don't. I tried to fix them years ago, and was completely baffled with how to figure out what was going on and how to fix them. So that's part of the genesis of all of that. Is Task Server as an application really scares and frustrates me.
Yeah.
So say the name of that application you're using on your phone again.
It's Termux, so it's basically just a. You can see it well enough there. It's a terminal for your phone, and there's some limits on what binaries you can put on there, how they have to be built. Like it doesn't have a compiler, so I need to figure out a way to get 3.0 built to be able to run on it.
Mm.
TERMUX. A longer term goal is that I or someone would write an Android app that does basic TaskWarrior things, or maybe just Task Champion. Um, if I just had an app that I could enter a new task in and it syncs to my stuff, and then I can add tags and things like that, that would be enough for me. But I've never written an Android app before, so that's and I know there are various Android apps for TaskWarrior, but to my knowledge, none of them is maintained right now.
Mm.
Yeah, my temporary solution is to just email me the command lines as subject lines. Those commands when I get back to my machine.
I did that for a while too. Yeah. One of the things I didn't mention this in detail when I talked about how I use TaskWarrior, but I have a buy tag and a command line alias is just buy. So if I remember, I need to buy Loctite, I just type buy Loctite, and I can do that on my laptop very quickly when I think about it, and then I can look up the list here when I'm at the store and think what I need to buy, and vice versa. So, I need a little bit more than just being able to add a task. Basically, just reports and adding tasks. That's all I need.
Sure, so I had a similar like, do I really want to make an Android app for this? In the end, just it's just like it's a website, and then you type stuff, and then it runs this X TaskWarrior like task thing, and then you get all the results. So it's not the most fancy UI, but like the nice thing is then it can work real. Yeah. So
Great, actually. That like combines, because I think most people, like you said, like it because it's command line. So I want access to my tasks and I'll do what I have to, but a pointy, clicky, scrolly kind of interface isn't really what I want out of TaskWarrior.
Yeah.
I also get frustrated in Termux that it doesn't have any of the completion or gesture things or any of that. This might be a nice way to get in between there, where I can use gestures to write the command line, still a command line, and I'm still seeing just text as the output, the text that I'm used to as output. Maybe that's probably also pretty easy to maintain as an app. So maybe that's an interesting direction to think about going for building a UI for this. Cool idea.
Very good. Well, that brings us to the bottom of the hour and the end of our official meeting. The room, of course, will stay open, but I am going to turn off the recording now. And before I do, thank you everyone for coming and participating. This has been terrific again. Thank you.